Okay, moving on to fourth factor is predictability. Among the characteristics of human development, the fourth factor is predictability. So if we know human developments, we could predict at what stage, for example, at certain stage, this what's going to happen. So predictability, by understanding human development, we can determine the norms and the time schedules and what to expect from people at different ages and transitions. So behavior also could be predicted when we understand that in our life there are stages that we have to go through. For example, from early age to the later age, we have to move into certain stages until we come to the age of old age. So we could understand, we could predict what's the behavior going to happen at certain age, and we could also understand that the development is partly automatic. That's for survival. So we do not have to. Sometimes we do not have to learn. It's actually the learning takes time. The learning takes place automatically. So that's for our survival. And there's also correlations between physical and mental intellectual traits with the increase of age. The mental also increase, the age also, the physical or development also increase, the mental intellectual trait also increase. So we could predict that with the increase of age, all those development into physical, mental, intellectual traits also increase or also develops. So determinants of human developments, when we talk about human developments, actually in terms of determinants of human developments, we have to understand that we in order to understand what happened to us, we have to know that we are influenced by genetics. That's mean we've been born, we inherit from our parents the genetics. We are also learned from the environments. So human development is a product of the interactions between genetics potential and social learning. So like I mentioned, genetic potential is referring to the genetics that we inherit from our parents. Social learning is the influence from the environments that we learn. So the human development is not just based on the genetic, but also based on social learning that we learn or we are influenced by the environments. So the quality of social learnings and environmental characteristics determine how genetic potential. So basically, every one of us have a genetic potentials. We were born with the genetic potential. If we want to become fat, or if we want to become thin, or if we want to become whatever, we genetically been born to have all those things. But however, our genetic potential will not manifest itself without the conducive environment. So here it says the determinant of human development is based on the interaction between genetic and social learning. So basically, we are born with the genetic potential, and this genetic potential will not manifest until we have a good a good environment conducive for learning. So this genetic potential will manifest if we have conducive environments, or we have suitable environment, if we have good environment. If this genetic potential will not manifest if we has environment that are poor environment. For example, those who are genetically good, for example, if they've been born from the environment that are not conducive for learning, the person, even though genetically have potential in terms of on terms of intellectual performance, but because of the environment is not really conducive to proceed with their intellectual performance, then they will not be able to able to achieve the intellectual performance. So it's a combination of genetic potential. Every one of us have genetic potential, but this genetic potential will not manifest if the environment is not conducive, or if the environment is not really good or important for the development of human being. So it is important to have a environment that are conducive, so for the social learnings to take place. So conducive environment is important for the social learning in order for the genetic potential to be manifest. So when we talk about determinant, we talk about the interactions between heredity and environments. That means heredity and environment keep interact with each other. Then we learn. If we just based on the genetic, but not environments, actually it's not also help us to become more developed individual or fully functioning individuals. So heredity influences, however, are very important. We should not deny the importance of heredity. Heredity are really important, but we having a heredity genetic potential only will not manifest if we don't have good environment. So heredity, in every one of us, we have some similarities, we have some differences or unique behavior that we inherited from our genetics, from our parents. That's genetics. So genetic determinations have more dominant influence in the physical domain. When we talk about genetic influence, we talk about genetics that we inherited from our parents. Normally, genetics will be more dominant in our physical growth, in our age. For example, aging, certain people get old faster than others of the same age. Muscle also, some people, because of genetic problems, they are not really having good muscle, or they have a problem with the glands. So basically what I want to emphasize here is when we talk about genetic influence more on our physical growth, on our aging, on our muscle gland, and so on. So intelligent and specific talent, for example, are also related to genetics. However, this not totally based on genetic. So some psychological and social behaviors, for example, aggressions, language acquisitions, mate selections, how you select your spouse, how you're gonna select your husbands, your wife, actually based on the combinations of environments and also genetics and also cultural. So learning and cultural actually belong to environment. Biology belongs to genetic. So basically what I want to emphasize here, genetic give more influence on our physical developments and also some of the mental developments. But in order to have to manifest all this development into fully functioning individual, need to have good environments, combinations of good environment and genetics. So here I put in this slide similarity in us that we share from our parents, and uniqueness that we have. That's mean individual differences. That's mean uniqueness. Even though we have sibling, for example, they are coming from the same parents, mom and dad. We share similarities with our sibling, but we different from our sibling. That's uniqueness in us. So this actually based on genetic inheritance. This genetic and inheritance are normally more influenced in our physical development, our facial physical development in terms of our facial showing on facial what we say on our face, similarity in face, similarity in hair colors, in skin complexions, and so on. Behavior, however, sometimes are learned in various ways. It's not just inherited. So behavior is learned, but physical features of us are inherited. So this is very common. You know already your physical developments. That means your face, your hands, and whatever physical developments are inherited. But your behavior can be inherited, can be because of you learns or from the environments. So behavior are learned or acquired. That means both coming from environments and also coming from genetics in various ways, including learning. So we learn, for example, through experience. We tend to conditions. For example, if we receive more reward, we tend to do the behavior that we receive more reward. For example, if you behave certain thing, people like your behavior, you tend to repeat to do the behavior repeatedly. That means you tend to do it again and again. But if your behavior is not liked by many, maybe your parents didn't like the way you behave, you tend to not behave like that kind of behavior more frequently. So that's kind of conditioning. And social, you learn from interactions with others. Cognitive learning based, sometimes based on problem solving, based on interactions, reading, and so on. Imitations, when you watch TV, when you watch others, you're maybe impressed with their behavior, you imitate them, maybe because at certain age, for example, when you when you are adolescents, you tend to find the identity that you want to come up with. You need to have identity, role identity. So at the adolescence, you tend to imitate others. And modeling behavior is based on the behavior of your role model. You want to be identified with the role model, with the artist, with the teachers, and anyone. So you tend to learn through all these environmental cues like conditioning and so on. So environments and learnings are very powerful. Example, influence culture and ethnicity, because we belong to certain culture, we belong to ethnicity, so we tend to learn based, for example, certain culture, ethnicity. They learn behavior, they learn things from family, school, peer groups, occupations, experience, social environment. So this actually the environment that our behavior we learn from the environment, and this environment consists of, for example, culture, ethnicity, and so on. So this is actually, like, I'll give you this example, whether this example good or bad, this kind of behavior is actually a combination of both. Our behavior, whether it is bad or good, is actually combinations of our genetic and combinations of our environments. We may learn whether that's behavior good or bad from our parents genetically, maybe from our parents genetically, and also from the environments, whether it is acceptable to the norms or not. So this our bad or good behavior is coming from combinations of environment and also genetics. Culture, ethnicity, like I mentioned, actually influence our behavior. Ethnicity linked to race. Culture is defined as a preferred way of behaving in certain groups. Environmental learning influence the way individual develops. That means in terms of concept, values about work, career maturities. That means productive, whether unproductive work behavior that you prefer. So these are actually the learning that you experience that influence you from the environments that make you to behave like that. So I put in this slide. So environmental learning consists of career maturity, productive or unproductive behavior, and work concept and values. So you learn about all this from environments, or because you are exposed to the environments, you learn the values and the concept and the career maturity and so on.